course, one thing that's always really precious with a Yin Yoga practice is to sort of help unwind some of that tension. You know, there are places in the body where tension and stress tends to accumulate a little bit more. And when we come into these long-held postures, really giving poses a little bit of time, it can often feel like that buildup of tension is slowly starting to unwind and clear and release. But the other opportunity that I always really appreciate is that sort of deeper insight awareness, you know, where we really kind of start to turn inside of ourselves a little bit more. And I'm sure you have noticed that, but when we turn inward, there really is quite a lot going on. You know, we notice sensations in the body, we're noticing our breathing, we're noticing these different shapes that we come into. There's thinking, there's emotion, there is energetic changes or our moods changing. So it's really quite a lot. And I find it's helpful to sort of take in what's happening, but perhaps also to see if at some point we might quite intentionally make a choice and say, well, this is what I'm going to focus on now, so that our attention doesn't kind of move around too much, but we also begin to sort of focus in on something a little bit more specific. That can be important for many different reasons. One is we really strengthen our capacity to concentrate. We strengthen our capacity to be present with something that's happening. But we might also in that moment learn a little bit more, discover something about what we're focusing on, more so than if we let our awareness move around too much the entire time. And through that, sometimes we also discover insights, you know. This is where we move through this kind of jungle of sensation and thoughts and so many different things that are going on. You know, we start to kind of narrow it down to what might be more important or more relevant for us at that time in our life. So we'll start out today by just lying all the way down on the belly. So have your props within reach so you can gather what you need. But for now, come onto your belly either with your arms extended to the sides of the body, the head turning, or if that's not comfortable in your neck, feel free to bring your hands under your forehead instead. Yeah, and so before we come into some deeper sensations and postures, starting out in this more neutral shape, so you can take a little check-in with yourself. To notice your breath here. Notice your body. But also notice what you are kind of bringing in with you, so to speak. Any thoughts or memories or emotional states that are present here for you today. And again, sometimes we may be able to identify what that is. Sometimes it feels like it's all sort of mixed into one another where it's hard to even pull things apart and identify. That's okay. Just kind of notice what's here for you right now. Yeah, take another breath here. And then we'll come into a cobra from here, where we, I guess more of a sphinx pose, where our elbows are below the shoulders. And we're coming into a spinal extension, so meaning a little bit of a back bend. The feet can be together. The feet can also be mat width apart. So you're welcome to try both of these options and to see if it makes a difference in how this feels in your back. And so right here, this might be the place to be and stay, but I'll offer some variations if you'd like to explore a little bit more. You may bring a pillow or a yoga cushion, depending on the thickness, kind of up against your belly. So my hips, my pubic bone are still on the ground, but having this against my belly can offer a little bit of support here. And possibly adding some height under the elbows as well. And blocks, of course, can be on different height settings as well if you want to explore some options there. And then with Yin Yoga, we often we talk about how we keep the body quite passive and disengaged, especially around the quote-unquote target areas, which in this case would be your spine and your lower back. So it would be okay to keep the arms and shoulders a little more relaxed, even letting the shoulders kind of shrug up towards the ears, right? Or you could engage your arms and press your shoulders down and maybe notice how sensations in your back are a little bit different with that. Okay. And so we'll be here for just about another couple of minutes. So set yourself up in a way where this feels sustainable. But of course, if you feel you need to come out a little bit sooner, just come and rest on your belly anytime. And so in regard to sensations in your body, take a moment and notice the pressure of your hips against the ground, the sensations of props against your skin and against your body. Sensations in your joints. So very likely there really are a lot of different things that we become aware of. But when you're ready, see if you can find the sensation that is most obvious, really stands out, maybe the one that's the loudest. And then experiment a little bit with being right there, like holding your focus right there. And to gather a little bit more detail about that sensation, notice the texture. Notice if it's pleasant or unpleasant. If something else shows up for you that pulls you away from this kind of concentration that we are establishing here, that's all right. Just notice that. And then come right back and take a few more breaths, really being there as much as you can. Feel sensations in your body now. Yeah, take just 3 more breaths. And then as we come into this transition, move slowly, setting props aside if you did use them, and return all the way onto your belly once again. If your head was turned, you may turn your head the opposite way this time, or bring hands back under your forehead. And be with your body here. Yeah. Take another breath. And then we'll come into our next shape. And I know your back might be a little tender still, and we're just about to address that. But bring your left arm straight out at an angle. So it's about a 90-degree angle to your body. Your head turns to the right, and the idea is to roll onto the side of the body. So it's going to be the left side of the body, bending both knees and drawing the knees in towards the chest. And so it's almost like, in regard to your spine and your legs, it's almost like a child's pose, except on our side. But then we're also bringing some attention into our shoulder and opening the chest here. So if anything needs to be adjusted, maybe you're bringing in a blanket or a cushion to support your neck and head. Maybe you're sliding your left arm forward or back. If you like, you can cross the right arm behind your lower back if it feels like you're balancing here quite easily in this shape. Good. And perhaps eyes are closing as we start to venture inward a little bit more again. And so I think it is important to take in the sort of bigger picture of what's happening at first. Do you know, where you're scanning through the body a little bit and getting familiar with these different sensations and experiences? You might even touch on your breathing, just even to make sure that the variation that you chose, still allows your breath to be effortless and natural here. But then at some point, just see if there is an experience here that seems a little more fascinating to you, a little more intriguing. And then begin to anchor your attention right there just a little bit more now. Be with what you notice now. need to make anything happen. No need to figure anything out. Just letting yourself get a little closer, almost like you're starting to go right inside of those sensations or inside of your breath a little more. Notice how sensations are changing. And also notice any response as you're really focusing in on something so specifically. What do you notice in yourself? Do you do this with relative ease? Is this challenging? Are you focused? Are you distracted? Is there something that keeps pulling you away repeatedly, a specific thought or a memory, life situation maybe? And there's no right or wrong, just to kind of notice as you are being with your experience right now, what do you notice? What are you discovering? Is there anything else happening here? And take just another 3 breaths or so, taking that in just a little more. And as you make that transition, just know that there's lots of space and choice here, meaning you may come to the second side right away. You might find that maybe the left shoulder needs a little bit of movement, just kind of checking in with yourself there. So see what you need. Eventually, though, we're going to bring the right arm out, rolling onto the right side, pulling the knees in towards us any amount. Maybe moving the right arm forward or back just to kind of see what those different options are that are available here. And then if that felt right to you, you may take this arm behind you, the left arm. Yeah. Maybe as you're beginning to feel into your body here, explore this sort of relationship between doing and not doing. Meaning, notice the places in the body that really feel quite settled here now. Are able to completely relax and let go. And almost as in the kind of noticing the contrast, you may also draw attention to what's not letting go, maybe because the shape requires a certain amount of engagement to hold yourself here, to balance. Or maybe something else is happening in that part of the body that there is that response of muscles gripping and clenching and tightening. You might even notice your kind of more inner experience of thought or emotion, or your experience of stillness at this time. Yeah, and then just to see, what do you feel drawn to? What do you gravitate towards? What's happening in your experience right now that you'd like to get a little bit closer to? And maybe even notice your tendency to choose something uncomfortable or to choose something comfortable. Again, no right or wrong. Just eventually see if there's something you like to circle in on a little bit more. And so we're circling in on it with awareness, not necessarily with the need to understand and figure anything out, but rather to explore how much more aware, how much more conscious can I be of that? How much closer can I get? And then simply stay with it. Notice any subtle changes that start to occur here. Notice what might remain the same. Yeah, and take a few final breaths, just being here in your body with what's happening right now. Good. Maybe make the last breath or two a little bigger, a little longer, a little louder if you like. And then we'll return onto our belly again, moving slowly here. There can be a lot happening in these yin postures. And again, maybe shoulder needs a little movement, a couple of circles, but eventually come all the way into a child's pose, arms long, hips back towards the heels. And take a few breaths here. It's really more of a transitional moment, but notice your shoulders here. Notice your whole body. Notice your breath. And notice what you are being with right now. Even within your kind of own, your inner state, inner sort of felt sense in your body. Good. Yeah, we'll slowly bring ourselves up to sit, coming into a butterfly So I usually really appreciate height here, but my hips are often quite tight. So if you are naturally very open in your hips, you may not need or even appreciate the height, but it can be really helpful. The soles of the feet come together. I usually work with about a foot or so of space between my pelvis and my feet. And here comes Speedy joining us today. Hi, girl. And you're probably familiar with this shape. All we're doing is we are coming forward, starting to fold our upper body forward. And I suggest to take time for even just the transition of really settling into this pose. So see if you can come to where you feel that first little bit of resistance or sensation in the hips. You know, take a breath or two there. Linger for a moment. Take it in. And then get curious about, as you lower yourself down just a tiny little bit more, get curious about that subtle change. Really notice sensations shifting and changing as you let your upper body get a little heavier here, maybe eventually even letting your head drop. Yeah. Good. Also notice the moment when you've arrived. Notice the moment when you are ready to really land in stillness now. Maybe even take a couple of bigger breaths there. You know, almost as to confirm, I'm here, I'm now. And yes, you know, take in what's happening on the level of body. Take in sensations, breath, weight, gravity. But if we look at the architecture, the physical shape of this pose is kind of folding forward, but almost as if you're kind of folding inside of yourself a little bit more here now. And see if you can begin to take in that inner landscape a little more. Notice stillness. What are the sensations of stillness now? And notice any movements or changes that happen within that experience of stillness. Maybe a thought that moves in and moves out of stillness. And see if within this inner world here too, there may be this one thing that's seeking your attention a little bit more that stands out. Maybe it's stillness, maybe it's something else. And then let yourself be there a little bit more fully. It's like being willing to absorb that experience of being there a little more. Whether it's pleasant or a little edgy. maybe even a little bit of both. And to be there without fixating, but to be there with almost like a little bit of an openness too, where you allow for any subtle changes. You allow for other things to emerge that you notice and let go of again. So see what it's like to be here without fixating, but also without avoiding. And taking it all in just a little more. Yeah. Notice breathing in. Notice breathing out. Good. Slowly walk your hands back as you come up to sit. And we'll come onto our back for a short integration, a short relaxation. So we're really quite intentional in choosing a shape that's quite neutral, maybe adding a little support under the knees if you like. Maybe supporting neck and head a little. And let your eyes close. Yeah, we'll bring in just a minute of a little bit of a pranayama breathing practice. See if you can focus on your lower belly. Even feel free to place your hands there if that's helpful. So we're focusing on that space between your belly button and your pubic bone. Making the breath a little bit bigger, a little bit longer. And take just another 5 breaths here. Notice your lower belly rising and falling. Putting the full spotlight on your breath here now. Yeah, as your breath returns back to a more natural rhythm, give yourself a little space here to just notice your body, the way it is right now. Yeah, notice yourself just the way you are right now. Nothing needs fixing or changing. Just let yourself be now. Notice breath coming in. Notice breath going out. All right. Start to bring some small movements into the body. That could be feet and hands, or maybe reaching arms long overhead. Yeah, with the knees bending, we'll roll onto either side and pressing into the hands to come up to sit. Yeah. So perhaps there were some yin sights for you today, just some small discoveries or a little learning about what's happening for you and where you're at this time. And thanks for joining today. Namaste.